Hello, Professor Katie and class. By way of introduction, my name is Edward Pope. I am in the Organizational Leadership Program with the goal of completing my bachelor's by the fall of 2022. When I saw this assignment in the third week of class, I was very excited. Serving and volunteer work has been something that I've been doing since I was a teenager, being going to hospitals, praying for the sick, giving them gifts, going door to door, and praying for people's needs, and then leading on into adulthood, working for Operation Breakthrough, or not working, but volunteering with Operation Breakthrough, volunteering with Meals on Wheels, volunteering with Hope Worldwide, the Red Cross, and other organizations. So it's definitely something that I've done my whole life. And actually, earlier this year, even with all the volunteer work that I have been doing, I noticed that there was a hole in my volunteer work, and it was then that I decided to become a big brother in the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Oklahoma. And needless to say, it was a long process to get fully vetted, but it has been such a great experience, and I think one that is so appropriate to organizational leadership. So, as far as what it means to be a big, as a big, I get the opportunity to mentor a young person. And this is a picture of my little Chris. He and I spend a few hours every week to fish, to play games, to go to sporting events, build models, bowl, and other activities. Chris loves to fish, and he's taught me how to fish because I don't love fishing. But that was fun, and he's great with his hands and so inquisitive, taking things apart, putting them back together. I think the next phase for him is to learn how to make things work uh, after he takes them apart. But it's just fun to be involved in Chris's life. And Chris has had a rough life at a very young age through no fault of his own, but building a relationship and being his big brother has been a blessing for me this year. As far as issues and problems that are faced by BBBS, um, one of the most glaring ones, and ones that the one that I saw right from the get-go, was the fact that they needed more volunteers. They needed more bigs, more mentors, more people willing to do that. And especially for the men, for the young boys. Um, One of the reasons why I chose Chris was he had been waiting more than 2 years for a big brother, and the other match that I had been waiting more than a year. And so these young boys are out there having difficult situations and circumstances and needing more good male role models. But in general, they just need more people. And so the question, like, hey, is anybody out there? Is anybody seeing this too? Because these at-risk youth need a friend, they need a mentor, and the organization just needs people that are willing to put in the time and the heart. When we think about the overall impact of the volunteer work on this community and playing a part in it, it's very specific. My goal in joining Big Brothers Big Sisters was to impact one person's life. Spending time with Chris, being his friend, gives him good experiences in a life filled with bad ones. Being there to talk with him, help him, and being a good example is going to change his life, even if it's just that he remembers these good moments. If I can just help one person at a time, it eventually changes the world. As far as I was thinking of an aha moment or something that I learned during my volunteer experience, I think it was when Chris taught me how to fish. Here's a picture of him at a Scissortail Park event that Big Brothers Big Sisters was um, hosting, and he taught me how to fish, and we caught a bunch of fish. And but I can tell you, it is the first thing on his mind. It's probably the last thing on my mind. But he loves doing it, and so I decided I was just going to do it too. And he was so happy because he taught me something, and feeling like he had accomplished something, which he did. And he was involved, he was engaged. He kept talking about, hey, how I taught Ed how to fish. And um, and I feel like in leadership, there are times when, people look at us for us to give them something or provide some direction. And this was a time where he learned something by giving back to me. And this gives, in general, a chance for those that are serving to feel the same thing that I do or that we do when we serve. Instead of them always receiving, they get a chance to give. And that was such a great experience for me. And one of the biggest things in that I've been learning um, in the different classes that I've been taking for organizational leadership is the different leadership models and theories. And I've always subscribed to being a servant leader, and that's my style. But I also have kind of an old style leadership complex where I think I need to have all the answers and just be the best at everything. And uh, as a leader, even though people look to you for direction, some of the most meaningful times for them and for yourself is when they have opportunity to lead and to serve you. And even though there's always a stigma related to it, and especially for men, you've always got to be self-sufficient, don't rely on anybody, always be in control. And so, letting other people lead you, following them, and especially if you've led them and then in this situation they're leading you, it's humbling and it's sometimes it's tough. But when we take a step back, we know that we're number one, we're not going to be perfect. We're never, even as a leader, even the best leaders probably make the most mistakes. And so it's not realistic to think that we're always going to be the best and we're always going to be right and people always need to listen to us, but that the collective experience sometimes gives other people roles to step up, and that can be the best learning experiences for you and for your team. And so, even as a servant leader, it's great to raise up other servant leaders that serve you. In closing, as far as attitudes related to the community, um, this be the change, making volunteering and making a difference. I know a lot of people, we live busy lives. I live a very busy life. I already serve in many different capacities within the church, outside in the community, and Big Brothers Big Sisters is just another one of those. I have 7 kids. I've got a wife. I've got dogs. I've got all kinds of things that we're working on, and I know everybody's life is like that. The main thing is that, if we don't turn around and reach out our hand and take another person or take somebody that's in need, and especially these at-risk youth, um, then we're missing something very important in our life. It's not only our legacy and what we pass on to the next generation, but it's also for us to make a difference, to feel like we're just not another cog in the wheel of this world, but that with us, with specifically me or you, you are able to give back. Even if you're busy, a couple of hours every week can help change one person's life, and that's all you can do. Chris was put in a rough spot at an early age, He has emotional issues because of it, and he was waiting 2.5 years for a mentor. And as as I try to provide a positive image for him, and a positive support for him, um, my prayer is that he'll remember, and then he'll do the same thing, and he'll help somebody else that's less fortunate. Because if we don't, we lose a generation because of emotional and physical trauma. And every child, whether at risk or not, needs about 3 to 5 positive older friends and role models in their life. And I've become even more passionate to help these children for big brothers, big sisters, within my church community, within my own family and extended family. And you can be that change for somebody too. I appreciate the time. Thank you very much. Sorry it went long, but I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Have a great week.